Good morning. My name is Atharva Nathe, and I am a second year E&TC student. And today I'm here for my data analytics lab, SPPU practical examination. And I have been assigned 4 questions for this examination. So we'll take a look at all the 4 questions one by one. I'll be explaining those questions and I'll be showing the execution of the program wherever required. So let's take a look at what questions are assigned to me. So questions to be performed are: first question is load a file, mention its size, draw the pair plot of field type by dropping and without dropping the not available values using Seaborn library. So this is the first question. It is an execution type question. I'll be performing it in a compiler and I'll be executing the code. The second question is a theory question. The question is, what is the difference between append and extend? So I'll be explaining this with the help of this PPT. Third question is again an execution type question. I'll be explaining this question with a program in a compiler. The question is, write a program to create NumPy array and perform the following operations of average, mean, and median. The fourth question is interesting. Fourth question is we have to select a topic of our choice from the DA syllabus and we have to explain that topic. So my favorite topic is Matplot library. So I have taken that topic only, that is Matplot library data visualization. So let's take a look at the first question. What we have in the first question. So question 1 execution. This is the question. The question says load the toyota.csv file, mention the size, draw the pair plot of the fuel type by dropping and without dropping the NaN values. We have to do both by dropping and also without dropping the NaN values. We have to plot the pair plot of the given data set. So before we go to the code execution, let's see what are the concepts behind this. So the first concept is that we have to, how to handle not available values is the first concept here, that is dropping the NaN values. So we'll learn how to drop NaN values in the data set. Like if in a data set some values are missing and we don't want them to include it in our result, we can drop those values. So we'll be taking a look at that. And pair plots. So what I understand about pair plot is that pair plot gives a relation between a pair of graphs, like two, it will give a relation between two graphs. So a pair plot will make an axis. The axis will have all the elements in the data set on the y-axis and the same elements on the data set on the x-axis. All the data sets on the y-axis will be in the form of rows and all the elements on the x-axis will be in the form of columns. So this was the overview of pair plots. Now let's move on to the code execution of this program. So here we have the code. I'll be using Google Colab for executing the code. We can use Jupyter Notebook or Anaconda, but I feel Colab is much more interactive and easy. So I'll be using this. So this is my name, exam seat number. This is the question, load toyota.csv file, mention size and draw the pair plots, dropping and without dropping the NaN values. So I'll be explaining the code line by line. So see, this is the first line, import pandas as PD. So why do we require pandas library? Why do we require this pandas library? Pandas library allows us to import our data set in a program. So here we are requiring a data set. This is our data set toyota.csv and we have imported pandas as PD and we are importing this toyota.csv using PD. That is, we require pandas for importing this Toyota.csv dataset. Here we have that dataset. We have imported the dataset here, and we are reading that dataset here. So that is for NumPy as PD. Now for import matplotlib as pyplot. Matplot library is used for plotting various graphical plots, and that's why we are importing it here. Importing NumPy as NP. NumPy is used by matplot library in the background, so we need to import that. Seaborn library will be using Seaborn library to plot the pair plot. Uh, that's why we have used Seaborn library here. Now there might be a doubt that why are we using matplot also and Seaborn also. So Seaborn uses matplot library at the back, so we have to import this matplot library also. So this is now this line. So now this line. Here we have just imported our dataset toyota.csv, and we have imported that dataset here. And let's now this line right here will display the first 5 elements of our dataset, so that we can confirm that this is our dataset. This will print the first 5 elements of our dataset. So let's run and see what we get. So when we run this, so we get the first 5 elements of the data set. So we have this data set, and we have 10 columns here, that is price, age, kilometers, fuel type, horsepower, net color, automatic, that is the type of transmission here, cc, capacity of the engine, doors, and weight. So this is our data. Now the question tells us to mention the size of our data set. So to mention the size of our data set, we will first see how many elements are there serially in our data sets. So for that, purpose, we will be using the cars data dot count function. So the count function we'll be using here. This function will count all the numbers of data, all the numbers of elements inside this data. So when we run this, we'll get how many rows we have in this particular data set. So we have 1436 rows inside the price column. We have same number of rows in all the columns, but we have only 80 number of rows in the transmission automatic column. So this is the number of elements in our data. Now the size does not only consider the number of elements. We have to see how many rows and how many columns we have in our data sets. So for that, we will be using the shape function. The shape will print the number of columns and a number of rows that we have in our data set. So when we run this, actually it is already, I had run that. So we have 1436 rows and 10 columns in our data set. That is 1436 rows like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, like this, 1436 rows. And the 10 columns are this: price, age, km, fuel type, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So these are the 10 columns and 146 rows. So the next part in the question is draw the pair plot of fuel type by dropping and without dropping the nan values using Seaborn library. So we'll take a look at the without removing nan values part of the question. So without removing nan values, we are trying to plot a pair plot of kind scatter, and the element that we want the graph for is fuel type. So we are plotting a pair plot for fuel type, and the type of the pair plot is a scatter plot. So we have run this command and let's wait for the results. The pair plot includes a huge number of plots, so this will take some time. Yes, it is here. So these are our pair plots. So as I told in the concept that the pair plot will create an excess of elements in our data set on the y-axis as well as the x-axis. So we can see here the elements in our data rows were like this. See, price, age, kilometers, HP, net color. These all elements on the y-axis as well as same elements on the x-axis. Here, price, age, kilometer, HP, net color, automatic. These and the graph we are plotting this pair plot for fuel type. So we have the classification here, fuel type. So blue colored dots represent diesel fuel type, orange colored dots represent petrol fuel type, and green colored dots represent CNG fuel type. So we can see all those points here. So this is the pair plot without removing the nan values. Without removing the nan values, we get this pair plot. Now we'll see by removing all the nan values, what type of pair plot do we get. So now removing all the nan values, we'll see what type of pair plot we get. So for removing nan values, I'm using the drop in a function. This is the variable name drop any function and axis 0. So what is this axis 0? Axis 0 is nothing but axis 0 means it will consider all the rows. If I write axis as 1 here, it will consider all the columns. So axis 0. So we are considering all the rows, and if the row contains any element that is 0 or the value of that element is not available, and this condition is true, that drop NA will drop that row. That row will be removed from the data set and the remaining data set will be printed here. So let's see the first 5 elements of our new data sets. New data set in the sense by removing all the not available values. So the first 5 elements we'll get here is wait, we have to run this, sorry. So after running this, we'll run this. Yeah. So, yeah. So see, the first 5 elements changed. If we go to the top of our program here, we see here these elements start from 0 and they have nan values here. But now after dropping nan values, the first 5 elements are starting from 52. 52, 58, 80. So 58 to 80, there were some nan values between these, so they have been dropped, and these are the first 5 elements now. See, there is no 0 in this or no not available values in this data set. So we'll see the size of this data set now. So the size of this data set will be reduced now because we have dropped a lot of values that were not available. So see, we have 51 elements now in this data set. So the shape will be 51, 10, that is 51 rows and 10 columns. So now we'll be seeing the pair plot, we'll be printing the pair plot, removing all the nan values. Like we have removed all the nan values here. We have removed all the nan values here. Now we'll again plot a pair plot like this. So let's see what changes we observe in that pair plot. So we'll run it and we'll wait for the pair plot to be printed. It's still running, it's still running. We'll wait. So again, it is the same pair plot of scatter type, and the element we want our pair plot for is fuel type. So yes, so here we have got our new pair plot. By dropping all the nan values, we get this new pair plot. So by first looking at it, we feel that it is the same as the above pair plot, but it has many differences. See here, we have fuel type. By dropping the nan values, the pair plot we get has fuel type as petrol and CNG. Only two are here. And in this pair plot, by taking all the values, we have three fuel types here: diesel, petrol, and CNG. But the new pair plot has only two fuel types, that is petrol and CNG. So why did this happen? So the answer to this question lies in our data set. So our data set had not available or not a number values for all the diesel type. So the diesel fuel type had not available values. That diesel type was not available in automatic transmission. So it was not available values here. So when we drop those values, so when we remove all those nan values, removing all those nan values, we removed all the nan values here by using drop NA, those diesel type was eliminated. So in the new graph, we get only two data types, only two fuel types, that is petrol and CNG. So this is the graph by dropping all the NA values, and this is the graph by this is the where it went. Okay, this is the graph by keeping all the nan values. So this was the first question, execution both. Let's move on to the second question now. So second question. So the second question is a theory question. That the question is, what is the difference between append and extend? So let's see what we have here. So basically, when we want to create a list in our program, we define the elements of the list beforehand. But in many situations, we need to change that list, or we need to upgrade that list. And Python provides us two methods to make changes in our list. Those two methods are append. First one is append, second one is extend. So now we'll take a look at both of these methods in detail further. So these both methods work in a different manner. These both methods add elements at the end of the list, but still they work in a different manner. We'll understand how they work. So first we'll take a look at how append works. So append generally append will modify the existing list of elements by adding a single element at the end of the list. So each time we use append, the append will only add one element to the end of the list that we are trying to append. So we'll see this concept with the help of a diagram here. So we have, okay, so syntax of append is name of the list dot append, and the element we want to enter into the list, we have to put it in this parenthesis, and it will be entered at the end of the list, already existing list. So with this diagram now, we'll try to understand how append works. So this is an already existing list consisting of elements A1, A2, A3, and A4. Now we want to add this B1. We want to append this B1 at the end of this list. So if we pass only one element B1, it will be added to the end of the list like this. We can see here A1, A2, A3, A4, and this B1 is added at the end of the list here, B1. But the problem arrives when we enter a sequence of elements to be added using append. So when in using append, if we pass more than one element, then we'll see how they are added in the list here. So let's see. So we are giving C1 and C2 at one time, two elements at one time. So what append will do is append will not add these two elements as separate elements. Append will add these two elements as a list, and that will be a single element in the existing list. See A1, A2, A3, A4, and C1 and C2 will be combined into as one element. Here we can see this green box, it will be as one element. So we cannot add two separate elements to the list using append. So this is append. Now we'll take a look at what is extend. So extend. So extend is a method we'll be using to add one or more than one elements to our data set. The data set can be string, list, or tuple, anything. Syntax for using extend is name of the list or name of the data type that we want to extend, dot extend, and the number of elements, or sorry, the elements that we want to enter. So again, with the help of pictorial representation, we'll understand what extend actually means. So we have the same list here, A1, A2, A3, A4. Now we are using extend to add elements to this list. So if we want to add one item to this list, that is B1, using extend, that B1 is added here. Simply like before, this one element is added at the end of this list. Now, what extend has is when we try to extend the list by more than two items, more than one item, that is 2, 3, 4, any number, extend actually enters those items as separate elements in the existing list that we are extending. So we can see here C1 and C2 are inserted as separate elements in this list. See C1 and C2. In append, we go back now. In append, this C1 and C2 were inserted as one element. C1 and C2 were combined into one element. But in extend, C1 and C2 are two different elements. And this is the advantage of extend, that we can add more than one element as a separate element to a list in our data set. So the question was to what is the difference between append and extend, and I have explained both. What is append, what is the difference between append and extend. So let's move to the third question. So the third question is an execution type question. I'll be using a program to demonstrate this. The question is to write a program to create a NumPy array and to perform the following operations: average, mean, and median on that particular array that we have created. So that's it. We'll directly take a look at the execution of the program and I'll explain all things there. So let's see the program now. So this is our program to write a program to create a NumPy array and to perform the following operations: average, mean, and median, and to explain them. So in the question, a specific type of array was not defined. So I am taking a one-dimensional array here. So we'll import numpy as np. Numpy is required to import array, and for all the operations on the array, numpy is very, very essential. So we are importing numpy here. Now we are defining an array. That array will be called my array, and we are defining that array using numpy np.array, and this is the array, and these are the elements of our array. These are the elements of our array. 129, 3, 400, 5, 101, etc. are the elements of our array. Now we'll print this array. So to print this array, we are using the print command. The array is the statement that we want to print along with the array. So when we run this, we get our array. Array is, and the array is printed here. So the NumPy library has inbuilt functions to perform operations on numbers as well as arrays. So it has inbuilt average function to find the average of an array. So we'll be using that average function to find the average of the array as mentioned in the question. So we'll print average and we'll use np.average to print the average of the given array. So when we run this, we get average equal to 55.98181818. All that, this is the average of this particular array. So how is average calculated? Average is nothing but sum of all the elements upon total number of elements. So 1 plus 29 plus 3 and so on. The sum that we will get by adding all these elements upon total number of elements, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The sum on divided by 11. We get the average here. Now the second thing asked is median. So median. So again, like np.average, we have np.median function to get the median of the array. So I'm just using it in one line, print and getting the median in one line. So this is the median. What is median? Median is a point in a data set which separates the lowermost values and highermost values. Like 11, for example, our median. So if we run this, we get the answer that our median for this data set is 11. So why 11? So see, 11 is here. So 11 is separating all the lower values and all the higher values in the program. So that's for median. Median we get here, median. Then mean. So as this is a linear type of array, the mean will be same as average. That mean and average will be equal. So here we get mean. And that was the execution and explanation of question 3. Now we'll see what we have in question 4. So question 3 is done here. Question 4. So question 4 was to explain the topic of our own choice from the DA syllabus. So the topic I have selected is Matplotlib data visualization. So let's get started. So before we go into Matplot library, let's understand what do we mean by data visualization. So just tell me, when did we first visualize a data using graphical format? In our school days, right? When our mathematics teacher taught us to draw graphs on a graph paper, that was the first time we started visualizing data in a graphical manner. So data visualization is a technique to present the data in pictorial format. Why we require a graphical or pictorial format? Because it makes analyzing the data easier, and it allows us to examine the patterns that we have in our data set. Also, a graphical format makes it easy to visualize the data in a short period of time. It also increases the clarity and accuracy of our data and helps in data analysis process. So let's take a look at what is Matplotlib now. So Matplotlib stands for Mathematical Plotting Library in Python. And we use that matplot library for data visualization purpose in Python. And it has many features like we can plot graphs using different themes, and it also has features like zooming and panning for a clearer view of the data plots or the graphical formats that are printed using matplot library. Matplot has a pyplot module which is used for visualization. So it utilizes the pyplot to plot all the graphs, and we have to import matplot library as pyplot by using the following syntax. The syntax for importing is import.matplotlib.pyplot as plt. So we can draw various types of graphs using matplot library, and we'll be seeing all these graphs in the code that I'm going to provide for explaining this topic. Code was not expected here, but for me to explain it in a better way, I'm using a code to display some plots using matplot library. So let's see the examples for our better understanding. Let's move on to the example of matplot library. So here we have an example. So here we are importing the matplot library as pyplot.plt. So import matplotlib.pyplot as plt and numpy as np. Now we are declaring two arrays here. One first array is the x points, and second array is the y points. So the first array is 1, 2, 6, and 8. The second array is 3, 8, 1, and 10. Now, what plt.plot will do is that it will plot a graph of these array, like array 1 and array 2. And plt.show will print that graph. We have already printed it, but we'll print it again. So this is the graph that we get when we plot the x points and y points. Now, if we just want to plot the x points, we'll just remove this y points variable from here, and we'll see what changes are observed in graph. See, the graph changed. So this is the graph of only x points. Only x points are printed in this graph. So again, if we want x points and y points, put y points, and we'll get this graph of x points and y points both. So this was the first example of pyplot. This is a simple line graph using matplotlib. And now we'll take a look at some complex graphs like the histogram and all those. So for histogram, we require a data set to be imported. So to import that data set, we are using pandas library to import the data set, matplot as usual to plot the graph, and numpy library to help the matplot to plot the graph. So we have imported Toyota.csv data set here using pandas library. So I think just import the data set here, Toyota.csv. Okay. So we have that data set here. We are just importing that data set in our program here. Now when we run, now cars detail.tail. So tail will tail will print the last 5 elements of our data set. So if we want our first 5 elements, we will say head here, and it will print the first 5 elements of our data set. So this is our data, and if we want to plot a histogram of this data using matplot library, so we just have to give one command, that is plt.hist, that is histogram, and our data set here, cast data, and for which element in the cast data we want the histogram for is specified here. So I'm taking kilometer as the element here, and we'll get our histogram here below. So this is our histogram from the above data set of element kilometers. So this is the histogram that we printed using matplot library. So now using matplot library, if I want to change the color of this graph, I can do that using this color, edge color, and all this. This is explained here. And we'll give a title of our graph, that is plt.title, and that title is here, histogram of kilometer. X label and Y label are defined here. So X label is kilometer, Y label is frequency. So we have seen three types of graphs using matplot library. And I think this will be sufficient to explain matplot library for data visualization. So these were my examples I used for explaining matplot library for data visualization. So that's it. Those were my 4 questions. So we have seen all these 4 questions in this presentation. We have taken a look at the pair plot question, the append and extend question, the NumPy array on average, mean, and median question, and also my own matplot library data visualization question. So this was it. Thank you. And these were the references that I used. I used this BMC blog for matplot library, and I've used this book by McKinney, Data Analysis, and of course Wikipedia. That was it from my side. Thank you.